Welcome into the NFL opening line report for week number 8. I am Drew Martin, joined by Teddy Covers, getting you on the right side of some of these line moves early in the week, each and every Monday. And without further ado, Teddy Covers. Happy Monday morning to you, buddy. How you feeling?
I've had a better weekend. So we're not in a great mood on a Monday morning. That being said, we're fine. We're ready to roll. And week 8 is upon us, which is not quite the halfway point of the regular season, but it's pretty close. So let's get into it, Drew.
Let's get into it, guys. And if you're new to the NFL opening line report, we're going down in numerical order using the rotation numbers on the WagerTalk live odds screen, starting with the Thursday nighter. And then we'll hit the Sunday card here. So, Teddy, we got October 26th, Thursday night, Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Buffalo Bills. 42.5 being the total, seeing mostly minus 7.5 that the Bills at home as the favorite. What are we thinking Bucks at Bills Thursday nighter?
So with all of these games, again, if you're new to the opening line report, let me tell you what we do with every game. We give you the look-ahead line for every game. That was a bettable line on this game from last week. I used the numbers from the Westgate Superbook. So these are actual bettable numbers that we saw. I'm going to give you my power rating number for the game. I'll give you where the line opened last night and where it's moving this morning, today on Monday. Of course, morning still here on the left coast in Las Vegas. So with Tampa, Buffalo, look-ahead line here was Buffalo 9. My powering number is Buffalo 7. The markets opened anywhere between 7.5 and 9 last night. The 9s are gone. The 8.5s are gone. The 8s are pretty much gone. It's 7.5 right now for the Bills. Total sitting in the 42.5 range for this one. Let's start with the Tampa Bay side. Tampa played well enough to win yesterday and found a way to lose. Baker Mayfield had called for the offense to get pissed off and put more points on the board. And when you watch Tampa, it feels like they should be scoring points in bunches. They have a veteran quarterback. They have playmaking receivers, but there's not much of a running game right now. And Mayfield comes in and out of sync, especially against some of the better defenses that he faced. He threw a bad pick that probably cost the Bucks the game yesterday against Atlanta. Mayfield's quote after the game: "A lot of pre-snap penalties for us. It's on me for not being on the same page as everyone. We have to eliminate those simple mistakes." It feels like there have been a lot of them for Tampa. They have underachieved given their talent level. And again, so has Buffalo. Now, this team looked way out of sync. Both sides of the football. Basically, the last three, they have a combined 10 points in the first half of their last 3 ball games. Josh Allen, quote, "I wish I knew the exact answer because we have it fixed by now. Our season's not over. It's a long season. It feels pretty bleak right now, but we're going to figure it out." Again, when you're scoring 10 points in the first half of your last 3 ball games combined, remember, this was an offense that had the 3 straight games of 37 plus. They were in sync. Now they're out of sync. They've also got a couple of significant injury concerns as well. Daquan Jones, Ed Oliver off the defensive line. And, that was an impact in the game against the Patriots that they lost, where they couldn't get pressure on the opposing quarterback and allowed the Patriots to run the football against them. So Tampa's defense, elite in the red zone. Buffalo's offense struggling. 7.5 right now. 42.5/43, the current total.
Flipping the script here to the Sunday card, top of the card, 251, 252, the rotation order, 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific kick here as we got the New Orleans Saints and the Indianapolis Colts. Teddy, we're seeing 43.5 as the total, pretty much -1 or -1.5, depending where we're shopping here. That's the Colts as the short home favorite.
Look-ahead line has the Saints as short home favorites. They were -1.5. My powering number has the game priced at Pick'em. Opened last night, Indy -1 and 42. And we're seeing mostly -1s. There are a couple of 1.5s out there. We have seen over money for this one. The Colts are taking over money every week right now. All right, and Indy obviously flew over the total in yesterday's game against Cleveland. And New Orleans flew over the total on Thursday night, ending their streak of, 12 consecutive unders dating back to last year. Now, it's worth noting, Derek Carr, 55 pass attempts against the Jags. The longest completion, 21 yards. All dink and dunk. no stretch the field. And there's lots of rumors floating around that Carr and his new teammates aren't exactly gelling. Certainly looked that way on the field for extended stretches on Thursday night. Alvin Kamara, we're finding it hard to start fast, finding it hard to maintain, to execute sometimes, and we're finding it hard to finish. That's kind of the glaring and recurring theme. Of course, Dennis Allen, Saints head coach, worried about Trevor Lawrence's scrambles. Quote, we have to do a better job of not letting the freaking quarterback scramble. Dennis Allen under a little bit of fire right now. Of course, Colts, we talk about home field edge. Well, this is their fourth home game in 5 weeks here. Only 1-3 straight up at home this season. They won the yardage battle, 6.8 to 4.4 yards per play yesterday. They outgained Cleveland by 150 yards. It still lost. Obviously, dicey penalties on back-to-back plays late, costing the game. But let's not forget Gardner Minshew, 7 turnovers in 2 games since Anthony Richardson got hurt. Threw the ball all over the football. Yesterday, 3 touchdowns in the first half. But on this show a week or two ago, I said Minshew's the under quarterback. Minshew's not the under quarterback anymore. And Gus Bradley's defense, they're making big plays and they're giving up big plays. This is an over team. No surprise here if we see more over money flow over the course of the week.
Great breakdown, Teddy, to start off the Sunday slate, October 29th. And now we're heading to the Steel City here, Teddy, as we got the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Pittsburgh Steelers, 253, 254 going down in rotation order, -1.5 to as high as -2.5. That's the Jaguars as the road favorite, 42 being the total. Jaguars at Steelers here, Teddy.
Yeah, look ahead line here, Jacksonville -2. My powering number, Jacksonville -1.5, opened last night 1.5 and 41.5. And this morning we're looking at 2s and 42s. I mean, Pittsburgh doesn't have a statistical profile that's going to impress anyone, certainly not on the offensive side of the football. All right. What they have been able to do is take advantage of their scoring chances. They scored 3 red zone touchdowns yesterday in 3 tries in LA. And of course, this is an offense that only had 5 touchdowns all season coming into the game. They've been scoring on defense, not so much on offense. If the offense gets rolling for Pittsburgh, which is a big if, I don't know that Matt Canada's game plan was any better yesterday than it's been for recent Steelers games. But if this offense gets rolling, this defense has been dynamite. And again, TJ Watt made a game-changing play yesterday. This is a resilient team. This is a character team. You can bet on them when they're trailing. And Pittsburgh's got a little bit of swagger right now. A team whose stats don't live up to their current, record or profile. I think the markets, in many ways, are looking to go against Pittsburgh. We saw some of that in the game against LA. Jacksonville's not an easy team for Pittsburgh. The Jags. The Jags done the same thing each of the last 3 weeks. They build a lead, they stagnate on offense, they allow the opponent to come back, and they make a play late to win. They forced an NFL high 16 turnovers, which could be good news against the Steelers team that had some problems in that regard. But this offense, it comes and goes. They lost 2 fumbles in the first half. They get all kinds of penalties. They allowed the Saints to get back in the game. They found a way to win it. Trevor Lawrence made plays. And Jacksonville's really good. The offensive line is getting better. That defense is loaded. I'll take Trevor Lawrence in my QB if I'm about 30 of the 32 teams in the league. And you can certainly understand why the Jags are road favorites here. Wise guys are probably going to like Jacksonville more than Pittsburgh. They've been fading the Steelers. That being said, I'm not convinced this line goes up to 3. And at 2, there's no urgency necessarily to get to the window to bet the Jaguars.
Battle of first round selections at the quarterback position up next as we got the Houston Texans and the Carolina Panthers, 43 being the total, -3. That's Houston as the road favorite here, Teddy.
Well, look ahead line here. Last week, you could have bet the Texans -2.5 against the Panthers. The open. My powering number is 4.5. The markets opened 3 last night, and we're seeing some 2.5s at leading indicator books here. Enough 2.5s that it makes me say, let's get Dan to put up the emergency betting alert for this one. Yeah, if you like the Panthers, we have a +3 now. I understand my powering number is higher. I also have Carolina power rated as the lowest, as the worst team in the league, by I think a little bit more than the rest of the markets do. And I've got Houston has nothing but bet on. These are two teams coming off bye weeks. Carolina, a winless team off a bye week, which often attracts betting market attention. Those teams spend 2 weeks hearing from everyone about how much they suck, and they come back out and look. You oftentimes see the winless team coming out of the bye week playing one of their better games of the year. That's why I wouldn't be shocked if we've already seen some wise guy support for Carolina in this ball game. I've got Houston as a better team, significantly better team on both sides of the ball. I'm a big DeMeco Ryans fan, and this is a team that has overachieved from day one this year. I expect that to continue. Carolina is going to win a game. They might win 2. They might win 3. This is one that they could win, most assuredly. The market's going to look in their direction. Like I said, the +3s for the Panthers. If you want it, grab it sooner rather than later. Personally, I'd be more inclined to look at Houston -2.5 later in the week.
I love the breakdown there, Teddy, like the wise guy, winless team off the bye week. Would you also add in kind of the profile of the young quarterback off of the bye week as well as a bet on situation?
Potentially, but we have both young quarterbacks. A young quarterback off a bye week on both sides, a rookie QB.
Okay.
Stroud on the one side, Young on the other. So it's not a situation where one team gets an edge. In general, younger teams are supposed to gain more from a bye week. That was part of the reason why I put the Green Bay Packers on my card yesterday. Yeah, they were supposed to be better out of the bye. They weren't, but they were supposed to be.
Yeah. The concept is there. Who knows? Maybe it points towards an over. I don't know, though. Overs haven't really been cashing too much in the NFL, guys, but did want to throw that out to Teddy. Feel free to fire away any questions, guys, in the comments below. And if you're watching live, in the live chat box, and smash that like button if you're liking the content. NFL opening line report, moving down the list here. Philadelphia Eagles, Washington former football team. The Commanders now -6.5. That's the Eagles as the road favorite. 43.5 being the total here, Teddy. Eagles looking good. Sunday night football. Can they follow it up here in our nation's capital?
Sure. I mean, Philadelphia, look-ahead line was only 5.5 for this ball game. My powering number is 7.5. Have the Eagles more than a TD. Of course, this is a rematch. These two teams played only a few weeks ago. And as you mentioned, Philly, there were 6s last night and mostly 6.5s this morning total. Sitting in the 44 range. There are 43.5s out there. It looks like we're seeing some over money for this one. If you like the over, that might be one to bet sooner rather than later. Although Washington, I'll say this for the Commanders. They're not a team you want off a win. That offensive line got absolutely destroyed yesterday. I mean, Eric Bieniemy's game plan, I'm not sure what it was. But at halftime, they had 5 completions. They had 5 sacks allowed. And that's a Giants defense that came into the game for the season with 5 sacks. 7 punts, 1 interception, 2 first downs at halftime. And then, of course, Riverboat Ron. We talked about this earlier. Riverboat Ron's not riverboating anymore. They're fourth quarter. They're 4th and 3. They're down 7. They're in the red zone. And he kicks a field goal attempt, and it gets blocked. They're 1-4 their last 5 games to 2-0 start. I don't like the comments coming out of that locker room. Terry McLaurin, quote, being down 0-2 in the division is tough because you want to make the playoffs to get the goals you want to get to. You got to be successful in the division. Right now, we're not getting it done. Yeah. And look, Howell's been sacked at least 4 times in each of their 7 games this year. 40 times so far. The only quarterback who's been sacked more times in the first 7 games of a season in the history of the NFL is David Carr, who, in his rookie year in Houston, was sacked 43 times in his first 7 games, and he was never the same quarterback. Howell's also thrown 7 interceptions and fumbled once. All right. And again, the Giants had 5 sacks all season. And Washington, no chance in that ballgame. This is a problem going up against Philadelphia, especially because the Commanders moved the ball up and down the field against the Eagles the first time around. We saw a strong Philadelphia game plan against an elite Miami offense last night. No surprise here. See another solid Philly game plan against the Commanders. But Commanders off a win versus Commanders of a loss look like a very different team. They are coming off a loss here. But again, 1-4 their last 5 games. They're 2-0 start. And they did give Philly everything they could handle that first meeting. They're not going to take the Eagles by surprise in the rematch.
LA Rams, Dallas Cowboys, next game up here, guys. 45.5 being the total. We are seeing Dallas minus 6.5 point home favorites. There is a -6 out there, but consensus is 6 in the hook here. Rams at Cowboys, next game up, Teddy.
Yeah, look ahead line here. Dallas -6. My powering number, Dallas -6.5. Opened last night 6-46. And this morning we're going to call it 6.5 and 45.5. So we've seen a little bit of under money and a little bit of Cowboys money. Nothing significant, nothing where you need to rush to the betting window right here or right now. Of course, the Rams I continue to be impressed with their passing game. All right. They can get the ball in space. Their playmakers week in, week out. Matthew Stafford's a QB who we like. But Stafford's much better with a lead than playing from behind. Stafford's much better against lesser defenses. Cowboys have a stronger defense. And, of course, the Rams now have kicker issues. Brett Maher, they lost by 7 points. Yesterday, Brett Maher, 2 field goals missed and an extra point missed. That was the 7 points. That was the difference in the ball game. And, of course, Dallas will remember Brett Maher. He's the guy who missed 4 extra points in the playoff game against Tampa Bay. Matthew Stafford, after yesterday's loss, quote, "It's just execution." All right, he didn't complete a pass in the fourth quarter. Only the second time in his career with 4 or more attempts. Quote, "We can't have chances to make plays that are going to change the game one way or another and not make those. We've got to be more consistent. The only way to do that is continue to work." I mean, the markets haven't been right on LA all year. And coming into the season, they were supposed to be a bottom feeder. And then the markets, we saw them blow out Seattle, like, oh, LA might be pretty good. This is a team that has not necessarily been priced correctly or accurately. I don't know the markets know exactly what to do with LA right here either. All right. Is this a playoff contending team? We certainly look at their playmakers and go, they should be. When you look at their defense, you go, maybe not so much. Dallas coming off the win against the Chargers on Monday Night Football, and then the bye week, McCarthy off a bye. Well, there are coaches with better track records than he has. I'll leave it at that. 6.5, the current number. I don't see it moving right
now. AFC East divisional matchup up next as the New England Patriots head south to Miami to take on the Miami Dolphins. 1 o'clock Eastern kick here, guys. We are seeing the Fins laying double digits, -10, the consensus number as the home favorite. 47.5 being the total. Kind of an interesting handicap here, Teddy. I mean, record-wise, you give it to the Dolphins, but just this past week, hey, these two teams kind of flipped the script. What are we thinking here in Hard Rock Stadium on Sunday?
So look ahead line here, Dolphins -12.5. My powering number is 11. And the markets opened anywhere, there's 11.5 at the open, mostly 10.5. It's pretty much 10 across the board. Right now, for New England, Miami total sitting at 47. There are a couple of 47.5s out there, but not many. And look, let's give Belichick credit. We have to, because his defense can still take away the opponent's best weapon. That's the strength of Belichick's defensive game plans over the last 25 years. And we saw it yesterday where Steph Diggs, a non-factor for most of the ball game. They scored 29 points yesterday. Mac Jones, only 5 incompletion on 30 attempts, 9.1 yards per pass attempt in that contest. And of course, the 29 points was more than they scored in their last 3 games combined. Heck, it was when they had 22. It was more than they scored in their last 3 games combined. But nothing's coming easy for New England offensively. This team has no playmakers. Nary a one. Now, Jones, during the losing streak, had thrown 5 picks and no INTs. He did have a fourth quarter comeback after they blew the lead yesterday. But in terms of answering the questions about New England, I'm not convinced the win over a struggling Buffalo team answers those questions. But Miami's got their own set of questions. We have to talk about how teams are valued in the markets. Miami is blown out every weekend that they faced. They have not looked good when they try to step up in class, particularly in defensive class. The 2 games against Philadelphia and Buffalo were both wrong side losers if you had Miami in those contests. Certainly, it's not like New England hasn't given them trouble over the years, even in recent years, although not so much in Miami. Early money's come from the Patriots. I'm not convinced we see more of it. 10's about as low as I expect this to go.
Yeah, Teddy, like the breakdown. And you mentioned the Patriots having trouble in Miami. I believe it's the only stadium Tom Brady has under a 500 record in. So something to keep in mind here. Not that that matters so much for this matchup, but an interesting tidbit here. Next game up, 1 o'clock Eastern, guys. We got the battle for New York, the New York Jets and the New York Giants. These two teams play in the same stadium, by the way. So we're seeing the Jets, quote unquote, as the road favorite, -2.5 at one shot, but mostly -3s right now. 36.5 being the total, Teddy, that down from what? An opener of 38. So under money coming in. We got the Jets and the Giants. What are we thinking here in MetLife?
Yeah, I'm not convinced we're going to see more under money. Now we've gotten under that key number of 37, hence no urgency. Excuse me, for this one. Look at line here, Jets -3. My powering numbers at Jets -4, open 3/3.5 last night. And it's mostly 3s with a prominent 2.5 here on Monday morning. Now look, the Giants, they found a team they could beat yesterday. They scored the first 2 touchdowns of the game and then basically hung on for the next 3 quarters. Tyrod Taylor, I saw him throw a couple balls deep. The first one was a pass, was a completed pass. The second one was almost intercepted, and that was the end of that. The offensive line is still a problem. Evan Neal still hurt, left tackle. Andrew Thomas still hurt. John Michael Smith is still hurt, the starting center. They had a different starting OL 6 times in 7 games, may well be the case again this week. But defensively, Giants were great. Back-to-back weeks, Giants have been great. Kayvon Thibodeau, quote, we're playing really well right now. We've held team to 21 points the last 2 games. I think guys are doing their jobs, not making it look complicated, getting things done. Of course, Washington held to 273 total yards, 1 of 15 on third downs. And obviously the Giants' blitzing defense got more sacks in that game they had all year long. Dexter Lawrence. I think as a team, we have each other's back. One game, the defense might not play well. The offense will have our back. I think it's just a collective thing. We've got to continue to fight and grow. The Giants did get Saquon Barkley back. We don't talk much about running backs. He is an impact player for the Giants. He was a difference maker on the field in yesterday's ballgame. That said, excuse me, the Jets are the better of these 2 teams. They're coming off a bye, and the Giants are coming off a win. So that's not necessarily a bet on spot for the G-men, in this bettor's opinion. But from a powering standpoint, look, I've got the Jets ranked a little bit higher than the markets do. Markets are moving the other way on this one. They're expecting the Giants to be competitive. And again, home field, it'll be Giants fans. This game doesn't have much of a home field edge. The NFL doesn't have much of a home field edge these days. Home field advantage this year worth pretty close to 0.
Teddy, next game up, we get the Atlanta Falcons and the Tennessee Titans, 265, 266. Second to last 1 o'clock Eastern game that we'll talk here, guys, as the NFL is back to loading them up with 9 games at the 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 o'clock Eastern slate. But we're seeing the Falcons, Atlanta at Tennessee here, guys. Falcons -1 or -1.5. Total of 37. There's also 36.5 starting to pop up. And for totals bettors out there, Teddy, these 2 teams are combined, 2-11 to the under. Could we go at it again? What are we thinking here? Falcons and Titans.
And once you start getting to 36.5, heavy under money, obviously, at the open. For this one, look headline, Atlanta -1. My powering number is Tennessee -1. With Tannehill, we don't know if Tannehill is going to play. And that's the key issue for this. We're going to have to wait till later in the week. Markets mostly -1s with Atlanta at the opener last night. And as we mentioned, we've seen nothing but under money in this one, down to 36.5. Desmond Ridder in the red zone is not pretty. Whether he's running and fumbling the ball at the 1-inch line. What do you have? He had 3 fumbles in the red zone yesterday. But the Falcons twice got to the inside the 1-yard line and didn't come away with a point, and still found a way to win the game. They went 1-5 in the red zone. They were -3 in turnovers. They still won. I have to give them credit. But it wasn't pretty. And Every time Ritter throws the ball, longer than about 10 yards. It doesn't matter. You got Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Cordell Patterson back yesterday on the field. Every time you're like, hold your breath and pray for no INT if you have an Atlanta bet. Arthur Smith, I'll say this about Dez. He sat in there and delivered some big-time throws, especially when we needed late. At the end of the day, we found a way. Our guys made big plays at big moments, a resilient group. All that's true. They didn't make big plays at big moments. They did do enough to win, and the defense has been phenomenal for Atlanta this season. One of the most underrated defense in the league. And that's probably a positive sign. It is a positive sign. It's been a difference maker for their season, because if the defense wasn't good, they would probably be winless right now, because the offense isn't very good for Atlanta. It's hit or miss. Tennessee is a character team. We've seen it for years in the Mike Vrabel era. Certainly they're not a good team this year. They're physical in the trenches. In theory, they might be able to bully Atlanta at the line of scrimmage. They're likely to get pressure on Ritter. This game's more likely to come down to who makes mistakes and if Tannehill can play or not. Because when we look at the backup quarterback situation for Tennessee, there's a lot of youth and inexperience there, which is not necessarily what you want against a quality Falcons stop unit. So this line's going to move based on Tannehill's status. And right now, we don't know. So this one we'll look at a little bit closer later in the week.
Yeah, Teddy, talking about the Falcons defense there, they're under trend 1-6 to the under. But hey, most importantly for Falcons organization here, 4-3 is their record, and they are at the top of the division there. So something to watch going forward. Last 1:00 Eastern kick here, Teddy. Minnesota Vikings, Green Bay Packers. We are seeing the Pack minus 1.5 point home favorites. 43 being the total. Vikings at Packers in Lambeau.
Yeah, look headline here, Green Bay minus 1.5. My powering number is Pick'em. The market's sitting Green Bay minus 1.5. This morning is the look ahead line. There are both 42s and 43s out there right now. Which is odd. Usually would see 42, 42.5, but they move pretty big. And of course, Minnesota plays tonight. If the Vikings look good on Monday Night Football, they're not going to be underdogs in Green Bay. So if you like Minnesota, maybe a parlay. The Vikings tonight at +7, with the Vikings next week at +1.5. In my mind, that might be positive expectation. That's if Minnesota looks good this evening. Green Bay looked terrible again yesterday. Extended stretches where the offense, they've been outscored 63-6 in the first half of their last 4 games. They have offensive line injuries mounting. Jordan Love is not getting better. He barely had 100 yards of offense for half, and the longest play was a wide receiver screen, And it's a Packers team that a lot of people expected more from Jordan Love and the offense from what they've been getting. You look at the quotes, Rasul Douglas, veteran cornerback. We just lost to Denver. His voice dripping with disgust. Not saying they're terrible, but come on. We're supposed to win, man. I didn't like some of the body language yesterday with Jordan Love, and even after they rallied to take the lead, the defense being unable to hold it at the end. Packers, not a team I'm excited about laying points with at home against Minnesota, even with the Vikings coming off a short.
Guys, we're going to turn here to the 4:00 Eastern, 1:00 Pacific kicks, as the next game up is the Cleveland Browns and the Seattle Seahawks. We are seeing Seahawks -3. There is a key global book here, -2 in the hook, but the consensus line is at 3, 40.5 or 40 being the total. We get the Browns in the Pacific Northwest up against the Seahawks here, Teddy.
Yeah, and certainly look headline here, Seattle -1.5. My powering number, Seattle -1. We're looking at 2.5s last night. It's mostly 3s today. We don't know what's going on with Deshaun Watson. I don't know what's going on with Deshaun Watson. Cleveland doesn't know what's going on with Deshaun Watson. And obviously, they won the game yesterday thanks to 2 late penalties on Indy. The illegal contact call, which was as dicey as it gets, and then, of course, the pass interference call, which gave them 4 chances from the 1, and they needed all 4 of those chances to get that single yard. From a value standpoint, I have a problem with Cleveland now. I'm looking to bet against some teams that have tremendous statistical profile. And the Browns have a ridiculous statistical profile on defense, head and shoulders ahead of the league. Myles Garrett was a monster again yesterday, 2 strip sacks and a blocked field goal. This is a very good defense. It is not an off-the-charts good defense, and that's where their stats have been. And P.J. Walker is not an NFL quarterback. Don't be fooled by the 39 points. Found a way to win it. Again, we needed moxie, we needed grit, we needed toughness in the end. We got all that. We poured everything we had into this game, and we needed every bit of it. That's a concern for this better. Seattle, run defense, their defense has been solid the last couple of weeks. They've allowed 250 total yards or less in 3 straight games. Pete Carroll consistently showed up with their defense. He did a fantastic job again today. Go back out after halftime and shut them down and not give up anything. Seattle, of course, played without a couple of offensive line starters, including their starting center. They've been better without their offensive line. -3 in turnovers, and they won by double digits against Arizona. That's a positive sign. That said, Geno's had, I'll call them careless turnovers each of the last 2 games. That's something of a concern for me. We're talking about laying a price with Seattle. Again, the money pouring in on the Seahawks is telling us the market's not expecting Watson to suit up this week. And of course, Drew, it's definitely worth noting. We had 6 teams on bye last week. We'll have teams on bye again next week. But this week, the Halloween weekend, every team is playing. So there are no buys this week. Hence, all the early start games at 1 o'clock and et cetera, as opposed to the nice, concise 6-game early slate that we saw yesterday.
Love that you cleared that up, Teddy. Right before the show, I'm going through and I'm like, wait a minute, no buys? No, I must be missing something here. But sure enough, yeah, you're right. Why would there be bye weeks last week and next week, but not this week? Hey, who knows, guys? It's there must be something behind it, though, Teddy. So thanks for pointing that out. We'll head to Kansas City and Denver next game up, guys. Mile High Stadium. We are seeing the Kansas City Chiefs -8. There is a -8 and a hook out there. Also a 7.5. So kind of, I don't know, anywhere from -7.5 to -8.5 as the road favorite as we're talking on Monday. 45.5, 46 being the total. Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, who knows, maybe Taylor Swift. We'll see. Kansas City at Denver here, Teddy.
Yeah, I'm officially over Taylor Swift at this stage. She was fun the first week. She was fun the second week. It's enough already. Thank you very much. KC, look ahead line here, 8.5. My powering number for the Chiefs, 9.5. The markets opened 8.5 last night. They've been bet down. We're seeing 8s and even a couple of 7.5s out there. 4 at KC, Denver, 46. We'll call the total as we speak. We haven't seen a whole lot of movement on that one. This is another short turnaround second look. These 2 teams played on Thursday Night Football a week or 2 ago. It was not a pretty game for Russell Wilson and the Broncos. But again, we talked about Cleveland's defense a minute ago as being, it's really good, but not quite as good as the stats say they are. Denver's defense came into yesterday's game. They were dead last in the league in yards per pass attempt allowed and dead last in yards per rush attempt allowed. That Miami game was bad. The Chicago game was bad. They had a number of bad games. Right now, this defense is not that bad. They allowed a touchdown on the opening drive after halftime, 4 times in 6 games, not yesterday. And in the red zone, this defense has only allowed 1 touchdown in the last 10 tries. They're getting stopped. They had a 10-game losing streak with a lead at the half, which is hard to imagine. And they did their best to blow it, but found a way to win at the end. And, of course, Sean Payton, after the game, we're never happy. We work hard. We want it. I'm happy we won. I am. I think I was happier before I came in here, the post-game news conference. And, of course, Payton still has to blow smoke at Nathaniel Hackett. My team hadn't blown 10 straight with a halftime lead. Yeah, his team was only 0-3 with a halftime lead prior to yesterday. Kansas City's impressive right now, okay? They got pass rusher Charles Omenihu back. He was suspended the first 6 games of the season for violating the NFL's personal conduct policy. He had a sack in the first half to tipped the pass that turned into an interception in the second half. This defense is elite. And oh, by the way, the offense is starting to click. It was clicking yesterday. And if Patrick Mahomes and the offense is clicking, he had 14 yards per pass attempt in the first half yesterday, 20 of 23, 321, and 3 touchdowns. Second half, it was the defense completely taking over the game. Kansas City has supplanted San Francisco as my number one power-rated team in the NBA. 49ers in the NBA. In the NFL, 49ers have injuries. Chiefs are getting healthier. KC, not a team I'm looking to step in front of.
He's Teddy Covers. I'm Drew Martin. This is the NFL opening line report each and every Monday here on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. Guys, a couple games left. Feel free to fire away in the comments below. Any questions, and we'll answer them on next week's show. We do have a couple questions at the end. We'll try to fit as many in as possible here, guys. And also, for all first-time customers to WagerTalk.com, receive 15% off anything and everything in their cart for their first purchase. There is no cap or limit, including from daily to long-term, and the discount is automatic. No coupon code needed. So go check it out, guys. WagerTalk.com. First-time buyers, 15% off. No coupon needed. Load up the cart if you would like. Cincinnati and San Francisco, next game up, 4:25 Eastern, 1:25 Pacific kick here. Teddy, 45.5 being the total. -5 in the hook. That is the 49ers at home.
Yeah, look headline here, San Fran -6. My powering number, 6.5. I'm a little bit lower on the Bengals in the market right now, and I'm going to keep that until proven wrong. Last night we were looking at 5.5s and 6 on this game, and this morning, I mean, you can find a 5 and you can find a 6.5 currently available as we speak. Just look at that WagerTalk live odds screen. So this is one where you do want to shop around if you're betting this on Monday morning. San Fran, look, if they blow them out tonight, it could be 7. And, it'll be 6.5 or 7 if San Fran dominates start to finish, regardless of the injury situation. If they don't, it won't be. Since he's coming off a bye, better still remember what the Bengals did last year after a slow start. And they're getting a fair bit of betting market consideration as a result of that. And look, this has been a good, you look at their talent level, it's there. The execution for the Bengals hasn't been there this season. Joe Burrow's a character guy. It's a positive character team. We expect them to get somewhat better as the season progresses. I don't think they're San Fran. So we'll see what the markets do and what the 49ers do tonight, especially with the 49ers on a short. I mean, this is an awkward situation where one team's coming off a bye as fresh and ready as they get, and the other team played Monday night on the road. So as short a week as you get. So that's certainly worth noting when it comes to if you want to lay with San Fran in this one.
Next game up, 275, 276, Baltimore Ravens, Arizona Cardinals here, Teddy. Tricky handicap with the Ravens. -8 and a hook on the highway, 44 being the total. What are we thinking here, Ravens and Cardinals?
Look ahead line, Baltimore 7.5. My powering number is Baltimore 9. The markets opened, I'll call it 8.5 last night, and there's still mostly 8.5s out there. Total sitting at 44 for this, and we haven't seen a whole lot of movement on this ball game. And look, the Ravens blowing out Detroit. It was an impressive win, but it's 1 week. They scored 5 touchdowns and 6 red zone tries. Lamar Jackson was a monster. It was 28-0 before the Lions had a first down in yesterday's game, both sides of the football. Jackson had a near perfect, wasn't a perfect passer rating, 155.8 in the ball game. Today was lights out. Mark Andrews, the tight end. I think just by Lamar, obviously Coach Monk, from the top down on the opposite side of the football, those guys were elite. And of course, on the defensive side of the ball, Baltimore's given up 7 touchdowns all season to opposing offenses. Roquan Smith, after yesterday's game where they shut down Detroit, we just played our style of defense. We just knew that they hadn't faced a defense this year like ours. So we have Baltimore coming off this big blowout win with some pretty impressive statistical profile, and they're being asked to lay more than a TD in a theoretical flat spot on the highway. But flat spot doesn't matter if the talent isn't there. The effort's there for Arizona every week. They've been able to run the football. You don't watch Josh Jacobs passing 45 times a game. But they've been pretty good in terms of running the ball, yards per carry. They're getting crushed in the fourth quarter. -57 going into yesterday's game. Worst for any team in any quarter in the league this season. They've got kicker problems. Matt Prater just doesn't have it anymore. And they don't trust him to kick deep ones either. The defense is struggling in every which way. And I know they played fairly well in Seattle yesterday. This is not a defense we trust. From a talent standpoint, it's a problem. They're not getting stops in the red zone. They recovered 2 fumbles, intercepted Geno Smith once, turned that up into just 3 points. They took over at Seattle's 30-34 and didn't score and managed 3 points. Plus 3 turnovers and lost and failed to cover. Markets are crashing on Arizona a little bit this week, which might be a decent time to buy low if you think that Baltimore is vulnerable to a letdown.
Sure, and a little bit of a tough travel spot. Guys, we got Sunday night football on Monday night to end it. Fire away any questions in the chat box, and we'll hit a few before we end it. And fire away, more importantly, in the comments below. Let us know where you're watching from. Some cool responses last week. And any questions, we'll hammer them out on next week's show. We got the Chicago Bears, LA Chargers up next here, Teddy. Sunday night football with the Chargers laying 8.5 as the home favorite, 46.5 being the total in Inglewood.
Yeah, look ahead line here. Chargers -10. My powering number, Chargers -9. The markets had some 9s out there last night, mostly 8.5. It's pretty much 8.5 across the board. Today, the total has been bet up. 44s, 44.5s last night are 46s and 46.5s today. Don't know yet what the status is going to be for Justin Fields. Matt Eberflus said Fields remains the number 1 quarterback, but it's not clear when he'll be back. He's scheduled to see the doctors today. And Tyler Badgett, look, he didn't make the awful throws that he made last week. They got the right team at the right time. They were able to put together a strong early game. And the Raiders, with a backup quarterback, the Raiders did not play well. They were +3 in turnovers. That didn't help. But Badgett, the running game worked. And when the running game works, you go 8 for 11 on 3rd downs to open the game. If they can run, they can win. And when you finish +3 in turnovers, that doesn't hurt either. And, of course, they lost 14 in a row. And now they won 2 out of 3. So that being said, the quotes after the game from Chicago's opponent, not to discredit anything they did because they played like a pretty solid game all around, but it definitely had nothing to do with any of the crazy things that they did. It was more of us hurting ourselves. That's what Devontae Adams said after yesterday's game where the Raiders lost. So it wasn't giving Chicago credit. It was, we stunk, which is probably pretty true for that contest. But something smells wrong with the Chargers right now. We saw the loss to Dallas. We saw a non-competitive second half in Kansas City yesterday where, Chargers were in position, were toe-to-toe with KC for the first half of that game and looked like a different team coming out of halftime. Special teams meltdown late. Can't get off the field on 3rd down long and long again. This secondary got torched. And look, it's Patrick Mahomes. I get it. But that hasn't happened for Kansas City this year. And certainly when we look at the game that Dak Prescott had against this defense 2 weeks ago, and I know those teams are way better than Chicago. But there are definitely concerns about the Chargers defensively right now. And Herbert, who was sacked 5 times again yesterday, threw a couple more interceptions, doesn't look right. Chicago's supposed to be a team they can get healthy against, a team they can bounce back against, but I don't know if the Chargers are a team that I trust to do that right now. I don't like the quotes. I don't like the on-field chemistry, and there are issues right now. It's a get healthy spot, in theory. Not with my money.
Monday nighter to end it, guys. Then we'll answer a couple questions here. Las Vegas Raiders, Detroit Lions, Monday night, October 30th, 45 being the total, -7.5, mostly actually -8 here. That's the Lions at home. Teddy, what are we thinking? Raiders in the Motor City.
Look headline here, 7. My powering number, 9.5. I'll tell you this. If you like the Lions, grab an 8 now. There's a 7.5 out there in Vegas, a couple of them. Grab one of those now. It's not coming back down. I guess it could if Jimmy G plays. So let me tap the brakes on that. I don't know that Jimmy G's going to play. I didn't get that impression. We do know that Detroit has no backup quarterback. Brian Hoyer, by the way, has no business being in an NFL game, letting alone a starter. He's just awful. He's 0-13 in his last 13 starts in 2016. That's not exactly a good track record. And when they don't have Garoppolo, the offense is this. Dump it off a quick pass to Devontae Adams, see if he can make somebody miss, or hand the ball off to Josh Jacobs, who hasn't run consistently all year. 0 games this season. 0, where Jacobs has averaged 4 yards per carry. 2.9 yards per carry for the year. Okay. This is not a good offense. That might be a problem against Detroit, who coming off a loss, refocused, and after the game quotes from Dan Campbell. You don't want these to happen, but when it does, it recenters you, it refocuses you. That's all I know. I don't want it to happen. Nobody wants it to happen. Nobody thinks it's fun, but I know that motivates me for next week. It motivates our team. You do anything and everything you can not to have that feeling again. That's what I mean. Our energy was good, which is crazy when you come out of the game like that and look at the score. Our energy was good, but our detail and discipline, which has been so good over the last 4 or 5 weeks, was not good enough. So self-induced. Jared Goff, after the game, we've been through a whole lot worse than this. This was a tough game. We got our butts kicked, but this group has had a lot of adversity, and this is kind of the first taste of getting kicked in the teeth this year. We need to respond the right way. They certainly have the right opponent to do that on Monday Night Football. No surprise here if we do see Lions money, but that's largely likely to be more determined by Jimmy G's status than the other factor.
Teddy, great breakdown. And we actually have a comment from last week's show. You keep talking about Jared Goff in the stat that I brought up, guys, last week of his ATS stats. I think it's riding under the radar. He's over 65% against the spread going back like the last 5 years. I don't think enough people knew about it. But Arthur in the chat saying Dan Campbell, 28-12 is the Lions head coach against the spread. That's 70%.
Yes.
Impressive there for the Lions Monday night. Is that something you factor in just a singled out game like this against the Raiders, Teddy?
Well, it's worth noting Campbell's now 28-13. The 28-12 was prior to the game against Baltimore, and Detroit got clocked in that game. We talk about the concept here. Detroit was a bottom feeder for what? The better part of the last decade? 2 decades? Before Dan Campbell got there. When a team goes from bad to good, there should be money to be made with that team. And that's what Detroit has done over the last 2.5 years under Dan Campbell. All right. So we expect a positive ATS record. When you're talking about 70% over that 40-game sample size, it's very impressive. But it's not going to continue at that number moving forward. Detroit has gone from bad to good, and now they're being priced like a good team. So moving forward, we'd expect that to be a lot closer to 50-50 than what we've seen. What we're looking for is the next Dan Campbell, where a team is going from bad to good, that you can make money with for a year or 2 or 3 as they improve.
Shout out to Jim from Spring Hill, Florida in the house. We got London, England here in the live chat as well. Thanks for chiming in, guys. We got a bunch of comments on last week's show about your Barry Sanders story, Teddy. People loving it from Ann Arbor, Michigan. Guys, Teddy was
that was cool. So even here in Vegas, I got a ton of athlete stories because you see them around town, you see them in the casinos, and you run into some of these guys. Sometimes they've had a little bit too much to drink. So one show we got a little bit more time than today. We'll see if we can sell some more pro athlete stories. But I'm glad you guys like that Barry Sanders story. I thought, dude, this is true, okay? His thigh was bigger than my chest.
Amazing, Teddy. Guys, we'll have more time next week's show with the bye weeks coming back like Teddy was talking about. But, Teddy, we do have one in here from 6231 parlay question. Books allow like Penn State -42 and the over this past week, something like that. I've noticed the books don't allow you to do that either. Parlay a big favorite with a total. Do you notice that?
No. Yeah. When you start getting above, depending on the book, Some books will cut you off at 2 touchdowns. Some books will cut you off at 3 touchdowns. Some books will cut you off a little bit higher than that. But certainly, once you get above 3 touchdowns, you're trying to parlay favorite with over and or dog with under. The correlation's strong, and the books recognize that, and that's why they don't let you. Many books won't let you make those side total parlays when the side and total are clearly related.
Tyler in the comments saying, love the show. Question, have you found to be your winning percentage taking early lines like we're talking about here versus late game time lines? Better early in the week winning percentage, Teddy? For me, it matters like how much information I have early in the week. If I try to like force it and get out early in the week, I've noticed I'm not a lot better. But overall, I think I am better early in the week. Do you have any thoughts on that, Teddy? Time of the bet?
Look, anytime you're getting you're getting the best of the number, you're taking, in theory, a 50-50 proposition, and you're giving yourself a slight edge. For me, the moves that I make on Monday are much less about the opinions I have about the teams and much more about let's lock in at the best of the number. The handicap, for me, tends to come later in the week. And I don't know if I know he answered the question in the chat, and I didn't love my answer to him in the thread. And I don't love this answer either, but that's the truth of it. It is what it is. So in terms of a winning percentage, I should say never, because at one point I did. I used to track what I did early in the week, the bets I made early in the week versus later in the week. I haven't tracked it in 10 years because I didn't find much of a difference in terms of the overall results. It wasn't something that was, oh, wow, I did way better on these, or I did way better on those. I tracked it probably 10 years when I came to town. And didn't and found that it wasn't something that was worth tracking for me.
At Teddy_covers on Twitter, at Drew Martin Bets on Twitter. Teddy, any final thoughts here before we shut it down?
Yeah, you guys have been tremendous. The comments are blowing me away. Hundreds of comments every week. 10,000, 14,000, 17,000 views. The numbers are incredible. We appreciate all your support. We thank you so much for getting the comments on YouTube every week. And all we ask, if you like this show, tell your friends. And, of course, take advantage of that promo offer. Let me give that out one more time. This is first-time clients, first-time buyers. If you've never been purchased anything from WagerTalk.com, you don't have to do anything. It's going to show up for you automatically. You get 15% off any and every package you are going to get on board with, which includes the 30-day all-access or perhaps a remainder of the season in the NFL, both of which are available right now on my homepage at WagerTalk.com.
Shout out to everybody that watched last week, and even more so, the 180 people that commented on the show and the 500 people that liked the show. Let's beat it again this week, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Great NFL opening line report from Teddy. I am Drew Martin. We'll be back next week. Cash those tickets until then. Thanks for tuning in.